All right, good evening. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Aaron Bonert. I think we all know each other, but just in case, my name is Aaron Bonert. I'm the 7th through 12th band director here at Dassel-Cokato High School. The first group you see in front of you, in case you can't read your program, is the string ensemble. These kids, I love them. They're awesome. They come in before school, most of them to work on a second instrument and do something that's extra because they just love making music. And you are in for a treat tonight. Normally, for those of you veteran concert goers, I sit at the piano and I pretend I know how it works, and I try to accompany them. And tonight, we have brought in just an all-star piano player. I'll introduce him and tell you a little more about him later, but at the piano tonight is Mr. Reese Wright. Reese has been here for 3 weeks, student teaching with the band program. And it turns out he's a killer piano player, so I'm going to pretend to play the cello tonight instead of piano. You're all very welcome. Unless you're a cello lover, then I'm so sorry. We have 2 songs for you. They're both fairly short. The kids really enjoyed working on them. The first one is called Song of the Sea Mariner, and the second one is one you'll all recognize. It's my favorite things from The Sound of Music. 10th grade band will be out. Thank you. All right. So normally our concerts tend to go a little long. We work on so much stuff and they just want to share so much of it with you. But tonight's concert's going to be a little shorter. You've maybe noticed each band only has 2 selections. And that's because we've also been working a lot on contest music. If you look in your program, I think it's on the bottom of the second page on the right side, it mentions some of the groups and soloists that performed at the Region 5A Solo and Ensemble Contest. They all did very, very well. About half of our entries earned a superior, which is equivalent to getting first place at a state playoff game. Except in music, we're very happy people and we don't compete against each other, even though we call it a contest. You play for a judge and they critique you on several different items. And so most of the students, like I said, were in one of those groups that earned a superior. The rest all earned excellence, which is still very, very good and is equivalent to a second place at a state contest. So we've been working on that, and if you look on the back of your program with our upcoming concerts and contests and festivals, you can see that in just 2 weeks we've got another contest. The band 9 through 12 will be playing a piece that they're not playing for you tonight. It's a multi-movement. It's supposed to sound like a bunch of Israeli dance pieces. It's all original music, but it's made to sound like Israeli dance tunes. And it's very, very challenging, and that's what we've spent a lot of our time working on. And if you want to hear it, you'll just have to come to the spring concert. And the date for that's on the back of your program. But we're not playing it tonight, but that's why we have fewer selections for you this evening. The first one that this group is going to be playing is called The Irish Legend, and it's a really fun piece based on an Irish folk song called The Minstrel Boy. And we hope you enjoy it. So this next piece is called Abundant Bliss, and I am very excited that I don't have to conduct this one. I get to take a break. Mr. Wright, like I said before, has been here for 3 weeks. He comes to us from Luther College, and he has been doing just a great job working with these kids, and because he knows what he's doing such a great job, I said, how would you feel about conducting a few pieces? Yeah, that'd be great. So, making his Dasso Coqueto conducting debut, here is Mr. Wright and the Charger Band.
I'm going to say a couple things quick. Good evening. My name is Reese Wright, and for the past few weeks, I've had the honor and pleasure to begin my student teaching under the supervision of Mr. B and begin working with your students. This semester of student teaching is the final capstone of my undergrad music ed degree from Luther College, and the Charger Band is one of the very first groups that I got to work with. And I knew right away my time here was going to be incredible. I'm always laughing and enjoying getting to know these students while also feeling the satisfaction of working through challenging repertoire and helping out wherever I can, such as accompanying for performances and then also at a recent solo and ensemble trip. I feel so grateful to be part of this community, even if it is for only a few months. You know, I'm new here, but I am well aware it takes a village to build a program like this. So thank you families, students, and staff, and of course Mr. B, for making me feel so welcomed and supported. The Charger Band's last piece is Abundant Bliss.
All right, so I don't like using the microphone and I don't like reading to you, but I'm going to do both right now anyway. So at the beginning of the year, I sit down and I listen to probably hundreds of pieces during the summer and the early fall, and I try to pick what I think is going to make for a good program, something that's going to stretch the kids, something that's going to work on things we worked on the year before or that I know I want to touch on. And one of the things that I wanted to somehow bring attention to for the kids, for you, for me, was that 80 years ago, World War II ended. Which is kind of a big deal. The kids don't know very many World War II veterans. I remember knowing quite a few who have, they've gotten old, they've died, I imagine they're all gone, I don't know, the ones that I knew anyway. And I thought this would be a cool thing to do to honor the sacrifices that were made by so many people, to place something, something related to World War II and the ending of that great war. And I found lots of stuff that I thought was just sickening sweet and too happy. Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree, and all these pop songs from 1945, and that's not what I wanted to do. And then I found this piece. This piece is called Scenes from Terezin, and Terezin was a concentration camp in the northern part of the Czech Republic. And it's a super interesting story. If you're into World War II history, take your program home so you know how to spell it, type it in. It's a fascinating place. The Nazis used Terezin as like a model ghetto, and the Red Cross actually came in because there were rumors that human rights were being violated and that the Nazis were doing cruel and unspeakable things, and they built up this city, Theresienstadt, and the Red Cross came in and gave them the thumbs up, said, yeah, everything here is great, nothing wrong is going on here. And in reality, it was not a death camp like Auschwitz was, but it was a labor camp where you worked until you either died or were too sick, and then they shipped you off to Auschwitz. But also during the time that Terezin was in operation, some 15,000 kids traveled through. And of those 15,000, only about 100 ended up surviving the war. And this piece kind of honors them. Many of the kids, while they were there, they wrote poetry, they drew pictures, and those pieces of art were all collected and put into a volume called I Never Saw Another Butterfly. And Jack Stamp took 4 of those poems and came up with these little pieces to kind of portray that poetry. And what he says, he wrote a really long thing. I'm not going to read you the really long thing. But it says, for the most part, the music is not happy or uplifting, but meant to portray a dark time in the history of the world. It's intended to bring young musicians closer to the horrors of the Holocaust. And the final movement, Bird Song, is a poem that reflects on the freedom of a bird. The music is meant to remind us to pause and be thankful for our freedom. So I hope you do that. I hope this music gives you a chance to think, to reflect, remember, and it's not the one you're going to go home humming and tapping your toes to, but I think it's good for us to sometimes let music touch our other emotions, and this one will do that. And as you see in your program, we have a narrator. Mr. Andy Bonesock is here tonight, and he's going to be reading those poems that the children wrote before each movement. So I ask that in between the movements you hold your applause, the band will stop, and then he will read the poem that the next movement is based on. We hope you enjoy, or at least appreciate, Scenes from Terezin.
An Evening in Terezin by Eva Shulzova. Eva was born on July 20th, 1931. She died in Auschwitz on December 18th, 1943, at 12 years old. An Evening in Terezin. The sun goes down and everything is silent. Only at the guard's post are heavy footfalls heard. That's the guard who watches his Jews to make sure they don't run away from the ghetto, or that an Aryan aunt or uncle doesn't try to get in. 10 o'clock strikes suddenly, and the windows of Dresden's barracks darken. The women have a lot to talk about. They remember their homes, and dinners they made. Then some of them argue. Others try to quiet them down. Finally, one by one, they grow silent. They toss and turn, and in the end, they fall asleep. How many more evenings will we have to live like this? We do not know. Only God knows. Home by Franta Bass. Franta was born on September 4th, 1930. He was deported to Terezin in 1941 and died in Auschwitz on October 28th, 1944. He was 14 years old. Home. I look into the wide world, into the wide, distant world. I look to the southeast. I look toward my home. I look toward my home, the city where I was born. City, my city, I will gladly return to you. I am a Jew. This poem was also written by Franta Bass. I am a Jew and will be a Jew forever. Even if I should die from hunger, never will I submit. I will always fight for my people, on my honor. I will never be ashamed of them. I give my word. I am proud of my people, how dignified they are. Even though I am suppressed, I will always come back to life. Birdsong. This is by Anonymous, written in 1941. He doesn't know the world at all, who stays in his nest and doesn't go out. He doesn't know what the birds know best, nor what I want to sing about, that the world is full of loveliness. When dewdrops sparkle in the grass, and earth's aflood with morning light, a blackbird sings upon a bush to greet the dawning after night. Then I know how fine it is to live. Hey, try to open up your heart to beauty. Go to the woods someday and weave a wreath of memory there. Then if the tears obscure your way, you'll know how wonderful it is to be alive.
this band only had two pieces, one of which was going to be the combined piece. So I recommended this piece, and Mr. B graciously agreed to hand it out. The students have honestly left me stunned at their ability to put a piece together in such a short amount of time. Bands just don't do that. So I'm very, very proud of their adaptability, hard work, and also musicianship to make this piece come to life in just a week. This is Amparita Ruka. especially with a conductor you've only known for a couple of weeks, and they've been so adaptable and open to my experimenting and also curiosity with all this music. So we are so excited to present Kentucky 1800, and then right afterwards is the jazz band, so be sure to stick around for that.
improv solos, and then we're gonna move on to a slow and pretty Duke Ellington ballad called Come Sunday, and then we're gonna crank it up for the last tune. A lot of you will recognize it, if you're my age or older anyway. These people won't recognize it, they're lost cause, sorry, but you'll still enjoy it. It's feels so good, Chuck Mangione.
Nice.
So, here's the jazz band, we hope you enjoy. 1, 2, 3, and. emailed Chuck and he didn't reply. So we asked Sam Getty to play, and he's gonna rock the flugelhorn. Hope you enjoy. It feels so good.